Good morning, guys. Welcome to the demo session on this performance testing using load runner and JMeter tools. So before going to understand like what is performance testing and what is load runner, what is JMeter tool, right? So we need to know some basics. So as discussed with you, like one of you from EC background and another from mechanical background, right? So like these streams are completely different from software, right? So completely different from CSC background, right? So those who are from CSC or IT, most probably they are good in coding, especially, okay, and also they know the basics of software and everything, right? So coming to today's session, like as it is a kind of demo session, right? So we'll start with from the scratch, guys. We'll start from the scratch, right? So what is software? So I'll start from there. So the main reason why I'm going to start from what is software is nothing but like even for those who don't have any idea on what exactly the testing is, they need to understand each and every point clearly. So that is the reason why I'm going to start from scratch onward. So let's start our first slide. So we'll start discussing about the basics of software first, right? So what is software? So software is nothing but it is a set of instructions or data or programs used to operate computers and execute specific tasks, right? So whatever may be the application, right, or whatever may be the software. So software is nothing but it is going to have some set of instructions which is going to do some specific tasks. Okay. So based on the set of instructions or programs, right? So it will perform some specific tasks. So that we are going to call it as a software, right? So what is a software company right now, right? So we know what is software now. So what is software company? Software company is nothing but so this software company, it is going to create the products, okay, that take the various forms, okay, or various types of software, right? So simply, this software company will create different types of softwares, or it will develop different types of applications, okay. So generally, IT companies are broadly classified into two types. One is service-based company, and the other one is based company. Okay, so what are service-based companies? Any idea from Anusha or Harish? What are service-based companies? Have you ever heard what are service-based companies? Shamala, what are service-based companies? Shamala, able to hear me? Guys, please make it as interactive session. Say yes or no.
I think Anusha and Shamla, both audio is not connected. I think.
I'm able to see their audio connection. They are already connected with audio properly. Yeah, Shamala, able to hear me, Shamala? Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead. So what are service-based companies? Service-based companies are nothing but which is going to provide service. Okay. So that means here, for example, Accenture, Cognizant, Deloitte, Entity Data, these are all will come under the service-based companies, right? They are not going to they are not going to develop their own product. Okay, what they will do is they will provide service. So let us say if you are a customer to some X software company, okay, let us take the Accenture company, right? So if you are a customer to this company, right? So your requirement is you need to get one application developed by this software company, okay, to your whatever may be the uh, whatever may be the form that you are working on, right? So in order to get that, right, what this company will do is they will simply develop that application or software, okay, for your company, and they will give it back to you, right? So that means they are simply providing the service to you, right? So that is the reason why we are going to call this as a service based company, right? Another type is product based company. So what is product based company is nothing but So they are going to have their own products like Google, right? Microsoft, Apple, right? So these are all the product-based companies. They are going to release their own products, okay? And all the other members, like those who are not in the software field, they are going to use their products, right? General people like us, what we'll do, we'll use their products and we'll get benefit out of it, right? So those are nothing but product-based companies, right? Hope the difference between service-based companies as well as product-based companies are clear, right? So always work in a service-based company is somewhat more when compared to the product-based company. Okay. So whenever if you got any opportunity to work on any product-based company, then obviously the work here is going to be very less when compared to the service-based company, right? So they're in the service-based companies, they are going to get multiple projects, right? So that is the reason why work will be somewhat more here when compared to the product-based company, right? So this is what about the software, what is software company, as well as the different types of IT companies which are broadly classified, right? So any doubts, please feel free to stop and ask. Okay. So if you are silent means I can understand that like there are no doubts. Okay. So Anusha and Shyamala, are you able to hear my voice? Please confirm me in the chat room. So if you are not able to hear my voice, like again, we'll stop and we'll take a gap actually for a few minutes.
Sir, voice is clear, sir.
Okay. So what about Anusha? So next, coming to the next slide. The next slide is roles in a software company, right? So now we know what a software company is going to do, right? So software company, they're going to develop some applications or they're going to develop some softwares based on the type of the company, right? So in a software company, what are the different roles that are going to be there, right? So business analyst is one role, right? Software architect is one role, right? Team lead or technical lead, engineering manager, QA engineer, software developers, UX UI developer designers, scrum master, product manager, testers, right? So these are all the different roles that are going to be there in a software company. Okay. So if you enter any software company, you'll see all these different roles. Okay. And different people are working under these roles. Right. So let's try to understand how a project is going to be started. Right. So let's try to understand that. So how the project is going to start is nothing but 1 second, guys. I'm going to mute everyone. Yeah. So let's try to understand how a project is going to start, right? So initially, what will happen? This is the customer, right? So let us say you have some X company, like let us say you have Flipkart company, right? So you are the customer to the software company. Okay. So for this Flipkart company, okay, you are trying to implement one web application, right? So you don't have the capability of implementing that web application. So obviously what you will do, you will approach one software company, right? So what this software company will do is they will develop the application for your company. Okay. So for the Flipkart company, this software company, they are going to develop one web application so that this Flipkart company people, they are going to sell their products in that particular application. Okay, over the net, right? So in order to develop one particular software, right? So what this person did, he approached the software company, right? And once he approaches the software company, right? Who is going to take the initiative of this, right? So like which teams they are going to come and involve in order to develop this particular software. Okay, we'll try to understand that, right? So these are the four main members. Okay, they are going to get interacted with the client, right? So this person, right, who is going to give the project to the software company, right? So to this software company, he is the client. Okay, this person is the client. I'm writing with mouse, so ignore my handwriting. So to this software company, this person is the client. Okay. So who is going to meet this client from this software company is nothing but these are the four guys. Okay. Project manager, architect, okay, business analyst, as well as lead. Okay. These are the four guys who are going to meet the client, right, in order to get the information about the requirement, right? So initially, right, as a first step, what this architect will do, okay, we'll try to understand. So this architect, what he's going to do is he's going to understand the technical feasibility of the requirement. Okay, let us say client requirement is I am just trying to implement one application like for my company, right? I just need one application for my company so that I can sell my products over there, right? This is the client requirement, right? So what this architect will do is, so he's going to understand, okay, the technical feasibility of the requirement, whether it is technically feasible or not, whether we can implement this, okay, or not, right? Technically, he's going to think, right? This architect work is to understand everything in a technical way, right? So once, if it is possible, right, then who is going to come into the picture? Business analyst is going to come into the picture, right? So what this business analyst will do is, this business analyst, he's going to have good knowledge about the business domain. Okay, generally there are different domains, right? So this Flipkart, Amazon kind of applications will come under generally retail domain, right? So any banking related applications, like if you go with SBI online banking or ICICI online banking, right? So that will come under the banking domain, right? So again, some insurance domain is there. Okay, so like that, like different domains are there, right? So out of that, so this business analyst is the person, okay, who is going to have the good knowledge on this particular domain, right? So let us say if the client is from some retail domain, right? Then obviously the business analyst is going to be the person who is going to have good knowledge on the retail domain, right? So we need to bring that kind of people into this particular position, right? If the client is from healthcare related person, right? So the business analyst should have some idea, like not some idea, should have some good idea on what exactly is going to happen in the healthcare domain, right? So they are going to simply hire the people, okay, for different roles according to their requirement, right? So here the business analyst is going to have the good knowledge on the domain, business domain. So the business domain here is nothing but the retail domain, right? So why? Because we are trying to implement the Flipkart application, right? So this person is going to have good knowledge on the like retail domain. So this person, he is going to give some inputs, right, to the client. Okay, if the client is having some picture on his mind, this person is going to give some more ideas to the client, okay, and he's going to interact with the client more time, right, when compared to the other members, right? So the next member that is going to interact with the client is the quality lead. Okay. So what this quality lead will do is he's going to understand the quality expectation from the project. That means like how like in order to implement that particular project, right? So this particular business analyst, he is going to discuss everything, like what are the different flows that want to be implemented. All those things will be discussed by this business analyst, right? So how quality, right? How by maintaining by maintaining a good quality, how we are going to implement that, right? And how we are going to test it properly, right? Each and everything, right? So what are the different types of tests that we need to execute? Okay, that is the expectation. If we execute this test, right, whether we can identify this application is working fine or not, right? Those things will be handled by the quality lead here. Okay, and finally the project manager, right? So what this project manager will do is he's going to simply work on the budget and resource expectations with the expected timeline, right? So how much budget, okay, that is going to be there for this particular project, right? And how many resources are required, when we can close this particular project, right? What is the expected timeline? So whether it is going to take 6 months or 3 months, right? So how much time it is going to take to complete this particular project, right? Those things will be handled by the project manager, right? So these are the four major teams that are going to be there. Okay. So in the initial stage of the project with the client to discuss all the requirements here, right? Any doubts till now? Please feel free to let me know. Any doubts, guys? Harish, Anusha, Shamala.
No, bro.
Okay. So with this basic idea, okay. So with this basic idea, we'll try to understand how we are going to like develop the application, right? So now this client came to the software company and he's asking the software company to develop one application, right? How the development process will be done, right? So we need to understand that first. So in order to, okay, so you can ignore these things. Like again, this is the structure. Okay, so let's go ahead with this also, right? So this is the structure. Like initially, product owner will be there, and then project manager will be there, right? Under project manager, software architect, developers, designers, right? Quality assurance people, business analysts. Okay, these guys will work under the project managers. Okay, so this is the structure, how like this is the roles as well as the structure that is going to be there in the software company, right? Especially the software development team. Okay. So now let us try to understand one important cycle, that is software development life cycle, right? So this life cycle is very, very important, right? So whatever may be the application, if you want to implement, right? So then each and every software company, for sure, they need to follow this software development lifecycle process, or simply we are going to call it as SDLC in short form, right? So life cycle, guys, remember this term life cycle. So life cycle here is nothing but simple thing. Life cycle, whenever if you are seeing this term life cycle, simply remember that it is going to have different phases or stages. Okay. Life cycle is going to have different stages or phases, right? So whatever may be the software company, in order to develop one application, they need to follow this software development lifecycle process, right? So why? What is the reason is nothing but if they follow this software development lifecycle process, they are going to develop the software in a systematic process, right? With proper set of standards, right? In a systematic process with a proper set of standards, so that like they are not going to face any issues during the development phase or at the completion phase also, right? So that is the reason why they are going to follow this software development lifecycle process. As mentioned, life cycle is there. That means different stages or phases are going to be there in this process, right? So let us try to understand what are the different phases that are available, okay, in the SDLC process, right? So in the software development lifecycle process, there are 7 stages, guys, total. Okay. So first stage is the phase, first phase or first stage. So first phase or first stage is nothing but this project initiation phase, right? So in the project initiation phase, right, this business analyst, okay, BA, business analyst. If you remember, like we already seen this candidate, right? So this business analyst, he's having good idea or good knowledge on the domain, right? So what he will do is he's going to sit with the client, okay? He's going to sit with the client along with the project manager, and they are going to discuss few things, right? They are going to discuss few things here, right? One is the estimated time, okay? So estimated time, okay, as well as the resources, number of resources, okay, and as well as the budget, okay, as well as the budget. So these 3 things they are going to discuss over here, and the timeline, right? So all these things they are going to discuss here, and they are going to prepare one document called rough order of magnitude, ROM, right? So they are going to prepare this document called rough order of magnitude. In this, they are going to mention all these things, right? So what is the estimated time, right, in order to complete that particular project, and how much resources are required, how many resources are required, and how much is going to be the budget. All those things along with the project manager, this business analyst is going to sit with the client and he's going to discuss, right? And they are going to prepare one rough order of magnitude document here, right? So once this is signed off by the client, okay, signed off by the client is nothing but once the client is approved this particular document, right? Then we can understand that project initiation is done. That means client said okay for this project to proceed. Okay, then the second phase starts, right? The second phase is requirement gathering phase. Okay, so in the requirement gathering phase, so what again we are going to do is, again, this business analyst is going to sit with the client, right? And he is going to simply gather some requirements from the client, right? So those requirements may be functional requirements, okay, or non-functional requirements or technical requirements, right? So which kind of requirements that this particular business analyst is going to gather from the client, that we'll try to understand right now, right? So here our requirement is to develop one application, right? So let us say I am client, right? My requirement is I am having one company called Flipkart, and for that company, I need one web application, right? So this is what there in my mind, right? I don't know anything apart from this, right? I need one web application. So what this business analyst will do is he is going to suggest the client that, okay, if it is a e-commerce application, right? Where if you want to sell your particular products, right? Then obviously these are all the different screens that need to be there in your application. So let us say you need to have one launch page, right? And you need to the whatever the user who is going to visit your application, he need to register into your application, right? So one registration page is required, right? And after registration he's going to do the login, so one login page is required, right? After logging in, he's going to search for the products, right? So different product pages need to be there, right? And after searching the product, he's going to select one particular product and he's going to do add that particular product to the cart. So one cart page is required, right? And once after adding the product to the cart, right, he's going to do the checkout. So one checkout page is required. Once the checkout is done, then he's going to enter the shipping details, right? So one shipping details page is required, right? Once the shipping details is entered, then he's going to enter his credit card details or payment related details, right? So that means one payment page is required. And finally, once the order got placed, right, he's going to see the order on his application, right? So that means one order placed page is required. And finally, once all this process is done, he's going to do the logout, right? So one logout page is required. So these are all the different functional requirements that this business analyst is going to discuss with the client, right? So if the client is having zero idea, okay, then this business analyst is going to give this overview to the client, right? So out of all these requirements, which requirements client is going to approve, right? Those things are going to be captured, or those things are going to be placed in a document, that is a business requirement specification document, BRS document. Okay, so this business analyst is going to prepare one document in the requirement phase, that is the business requirement specification document, right? So whatever the requirements that I discussed right now, those are functional requirements. Okay, so similarly non-functional requirements are also going to be there, right? That means, let us say if we are launching the application, right? So within how much time that launch page should load, right? And if we are doing the payment, within how much time that payment should be done, right? Those kind of things will come under the non-functional requirements, right? So this business analyst is going to ask the client both the functional as well as non-functional requirements along with technical requirements. Okay, so what are the technical requirements means? So which type of let us say do you want to develop the application using .NET or Java or Python, right? So which particular softwares you want to add, right? So which particular payment methods that you want to add, right? Those things will come under the technical requirements, right? All these requirements are going to be gathered by the business analyst, and he's going to put all those requirements into a document called business requirement specification document, BRS document. Okay, So once it is reviewed and approved by the client, right? Once after reviewing and approving by the client, okay, then this BRS document is given to the project manager. Okay, this BRS document is going to be given to the project manager, and he is going to prepare one document here called SRS document. Okay, software requirement specification document, right? So in the BRS document, along with the functional technical requirements, right, some other financial related things are also they are going to keep, if at all, if it is required, right? So what this project manager will do is, right, so in order to give one specific document to the developers, okay, or the design team, so what he will do is he is going to prepare one more document based on this BRS document. That document name is SRS document, software requirement specification document, right? So here only the things which are related to the software development, right, is going to be there, right? So this SRS document is going to be given as input to the next phase, that is the design phase, right? Here this UI UX design team will be there, right? So what they will do is they will take this SRS document as an input, and they will create two different types of documents here. Okay, one is HLD, high level design document, okay, and the another one is LLD, low level design document. Okay, so these two documents are going to be prepared by this design team, okay, based on this SRS document, right? So what is going to be there in the HLD, high level document? What is going to be there in the LLD, okay, low level document? We'll see now, right? In the HLD, right, so whatever may be the application that you are going to develop, right? So each and every application, there should be some architecture, right? So let us say if you want to build one house, right? So what you will do, you need one plan, right? You need one plan, right? In order to build one house, right? So that like this kitchen room is going to be here, the entrance should be here, right? So the bedrooms are going to be on the both left and right side of the entrance, right? So like that, there should be some plan, right? So that we are going to call it as the building architecture, right? In the same way, here, in order to develop one particular project, we need to understand the architecture of that particular project, right? So which particular, what is software, what is that application architecture and everything, I'll discuss in our coming sessions. But as of now, just remember that it is the flow, okay? Based on that particular application architecture, we are going to develop the project, right? So that application architecture related diagrams and everything will be placed in the HLD document. Along with that, right, whatever the major functionalities that we discussed, right, launch page, login page, okay, checkout page, add to cart page, so those things on a high level, okay, those particular flows details, we are going to keep it on a high level in the HLD document, right? In the LLD document, low level design document, what we are going to keep is whatever the functional requirements that we kept over here on a high level, right? So we are going to, again, we are going to more diversifying that in the low level document. Okay, that means let us say in the HLD document, we are just keeping that login page as one of the flow that we need to develop, right? So in the LLD document, what are the different things that are required in order to develop that login page, right? In the login page, we need to have one username label as well as the text box, and password label as well as the text box, and also one button called login, right? And below that, if we forget the password, right? So if you we need to have one text stating that if you don't remember the password, click here, right? Or forgot password option. So like this, right? Whatever the different requirements that are there, okay, in order to implement that particular login page are going to be placed in the LLD document, right? So hope it is clear till now. Any doubts?
No.
Anusha, Shamala? Okay. So these two documents are going to be designed, like prepared in this design stage, right? Along with that, again, some like the view, okay, the style sheets and everything are going to be prepared in the design phase itself, like how the background is going to look like, right? Which color is required in order to develop that particular background, right? So if you are doing the login, if you are clicking on the login page, right? So where exactly that user. So here, based on this, designs and everything, like this HLD and LLD documents, this phase is going to end, right? So once this phase got ended, right? So the output of this particular phase is HLD as well as LLD documents, right? So these two documents, they are going to give as the input to the next phase. The next phase is the construction phase, phase 4, right? So we can call this as the development phase also, right? So in the phase 4, developers are going to come into the picture, right? So what they will do is they will take these two documents, okay, HLD as well as LLD documents, okay, for their reference, and they'll concentrate more on the LLD document. Why? Because like a clear step-by-step structure is there in the LLD document itself, right? So that is the reason why what they will do, they'll take both the documents, they'll follow both the documents, they'll read both the documents, and then they are going to consider this LLD document as the major thing, and they will start developing the application over here, right? So once after the development is done, right? So the output of this particular phase, we are going to call it as build. Okay. So we are going to call the output of this phase as build, right? So what is the exact meaning of build? Is nothing but simply I can say like exe file, right? So whatever the code that they develop, right, they are going to compress that code in the form of a build, in the form of one specific file, right? That file we are going to call it as a build, right? So this build is going to be deployed, okay, in the different environments, right? So generally, like in real time, we are going to have different environments. So what is environment is nothing but environment is nothing. Environment is the place where we are going to have different servers, right? What is server and everything we'll see in our coming sessions, right? But for now, right, just remember that build, whatever the build that is developed by the developer is going to be deployed on some environments, right? On different environments, right? So for testing purpose, okay, the next phase is the testing phase, right? So the test, for testing purpose, we have one separate environment. Like in some companies, they're going to call it as QA environment. In some companies, they're going to call it as test environment, right? And in some companies, they're going to call it as stage environment, right? So like the different names are there, right? But whatever it may be, so on that particular environment, this testing team is going to work, right? So whatever the build that is developed over here, right, by the developer, this build is going to be deployed into that specific environment where the testing team is going to start doing the testing here, right? So generally testing are of two types, right? So one is functional testing and another one is non-functional testing. So I already discussed the details of functional as well as non-functional requirements over there, right? In the same way, functional testing, non-functional testing, both are there, right? So functional testing means if you are launching the application, right? So let us say you open the browser and you type www.flipkart.com, right? And you pressed enter. So once after pressing on enter, right? So whether the page is loading properly or not, whether all the elements in the page are loaded successfully or not, whether all the images, okay, JavaScript files, whatever the background styles and everything is properly loaded or not, right? And whatever the links or the buttons that are there in that particular launch page, okay, whether we can click that or not properly, right? Once if you click that, whether it is going to that respective page or not, right? Testing this thing, we are going to call it as the functional testing, right? So functional testing is nothing but we are going to test the functionality of the application. So let us say we have login page, right? In login page, we are going to enter the username, right? So once after clicking on the text box, whether you are able to enter the username or not, whether you are able to enter the password or not. Once after entering the username and password, if you click on login, Okay, if the username and password that you entered is proper one, then it is going to the home page or not. If it is a wrong one, then it is going to fail or not, right? That type of testing we are going to call it as functional testing. Okay, and coming to the non-functional testing, right? Non-functional testing is nothing but once after entering the Flipkart application URL in the browser, and once if you click on enter, right, whether within how much time the page is getting loaded, right? Whether it is taking like 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 5 seconds to load the page, right? And also after entering the username and password in the login page, if you click on login, how much time it is taking to go to the home page of that particular user. That means to do the login. How much time it is taking to do the login, right? And what is the response time? Like within how much time we are getting the response from the server, right? Checking those things or testing those things will come under the non-functional testing, right? So in the testing phase, this testing team, they are going to do both the functional testing as well as the non-functional testing based on the requirement, right? So based on the requirement. So once the testing is done in the testing phase, right? Uh, and if everything is good, so what they will do is they will prepare one document here, that is test closure document. Okay, they are going to prepare one document called TCD, test closure document, right? In this document they are going to completely put all the things, right? That means what are the different types of functional testings that they have done, right? What is the output of each and every test, right? Whether that output is matching the requirement or not, right? Each and everything they are going to keep it properly here in the test closure document, right? So generally what will happen is during the testing phase, right? During the testing phase, there are chances that whatever the functionality that we are testing may not work properly, right? So let us assume we are doing the login. We are testing the login functionality, right? So what will happen after entering the username and password? After entering the proper username and password, if you click on this login button, it is not going to the next page, right? So after entering the proper details also, proper credentials also, if you are seeing the same issue, then what we will do as a tester is nothing but we are going to open one defect. Okay, we are going to open one defect. Okay, defect, or we can call it as based on this defect we need to open one ticket. Okay, we need to open one ticket. There is one application called Zira. Okay, so let me write it down. Okay, there is one application called Zira. Okay, so this is a bug tracking tool. Zira is a bug tracking tool, guys. Okay, so what this tool will do is it will track all the defects, right? So what are all the defects means whatever the defects that we are going to get, we need to open one ticket for each and every defect that we are going to get it in Zira, right? So to this particular Zira, both the testing team members as well as the development team members are going to have access, right? So what generally we'll do is whenever if you see any issue or any defect or any bug, we'll open a ticket. Okay, we'll open a ticket in Zira and we are going to assign that to the respective developer. Okay, let us say if Mohan is a tester, right, and Shamla is a developer, right? So Mohan is going to open one ticket related to the defect, whatever that he has seen, okay, in Jira, and he's going to assign that ticket to Shamla, right? So automatically one mail will go to Shamla stating that Mohan is assigned one ticket to, right? Then Shamla, what she will do is she's going to open the ticket and she's going to see what exactly the defect is, right? And she's going to do some tweaks in the code, okay, or she is going to do some changes in the code, and she's going to make sure that this defect, whatever that Mohan mentioned, is working fine or not, right? Whatever the functionality defect that Mohan mentioned here is working fine or not. Once if it is working fine, right, what Shamala will do is again in the same Jira ticket, right, she is going to put her comment that so I did some code changes, so can you please test it again, right? And that will be again, the ticket will be again assigned to Mohan, right? So what Mohan will do now is, again, he's going to test the application, right? Again, the same functionality is going to test it. Now, after entering the proper credentials, if we click on login, if it is going to the next step successfully, then Mohan is going to put one more comment on this Jira ticket that, okay, after this change, the functionality is working fine. Okay, we tested it successfully, right? And then he's going to close the ticket. So this is what is going to happen in real time. In real time, how we are going to show the defects. Okay, how the defects are going to be closed is nothing but by using the tool called Jira, right? So once after all the testing is done, right? The functional testing, non-functional testing, all different types of testings are done here, right? Then the test closure document is going to be prepared, right? And one more important thing that we need to understand is, here, once after the test closure document got prepared, we need to intimate the client, right? That the testing is done and we are ready to release. Okay, we are ready to go for the release. Then immediately client, what he will do is, he will ask one particular member from his team, okay, to come and sit with this testing team as well as the development team, okay, to verify the functionality, right? So that means we need to do some testing in front of the client, okay? That type of testing we are going to call it as UAT, user acceptance testing, right? So we are going to test the application, okay, test all the functionalities over here in front of the client, okay. That type of testing we are going to call it as the UAT, user acceptance testing, right? So once the user accept and in the user UAT, right, if the client is satisfied and if he said, okay, good, it is good and we are good to go with the release, then the next phase is going to be the product release. So whatever the build, okay, that we tested and it got approved by the client, right? So they are going to do the code deployment in the production environment, right? So now that particular product is particular application is ready and it got released, right? Now normal people like us can access that application and they can book their products in the Flipkart application, right? So during the booking process, right, if any issues, okay, if any minor issues that these clients are facing, right, that normal people are facing, right, those issues are going to be taken into the another phase, right? So that is the enhancement as well as the maintenance. So in this phase, whatever the issues, if there are any still, right, which are facing by the people, like they are going to work on those issues under the phase 7, that is the post implementation phase, wherein enhancements as well as the maintenance are going to be happening, right? So this is the process how we are going to develop one application, and testing is one of the major phase in the software development lifecycle. So without testing, right, they are not going to release any product outside. So testing is the major phase over here. Hope it is clear till now. Any doubts? Please feel free to ask. Anusha, Shamala, Harish. Any doubts? Okay. So silent means I can understand as no doubts, right? So with this, we completed the software development lifecycle process, right? So the next stage is like we already discussed, right? In SDLC stages, right? What are the different documents that we are going to prepare? So the same thing I mentioned over here, right? In the planning stage, BRD document, business requirement specification document, or business requirement development document, right? So this one is going to be prepared, and based on that, after doing the analysis, SRS document is going to be developed after requirement specification document, and this is given as input to the design stage, and HLD as well as DLD or LLD documents are going to be uh, developed over here in the design phase. These documents are going to be given as input to the developers, and they are going to develop the source code here in the form of a build, and that build is given as input to the testing team, and the testing team, they are going to test that application, test the particular build based on the test cases that they written, and finally the test results are going to be given as an output, right? And the test closure document is going to be prepared here, the final stage, right? So this is all about the stages of the SDLC as well as the documents that we are going to develop in each and every stage, right? So the next and important point that we need to understand here is this one we can ignore it. So that is the wrong diagram. So the next one and important point that we need to understand here is the SDLC methodologies, right? So this SDLC process, software development lifecycle process, is going to follow some methodology. Okay, there are different methodologies that are available in market. The first methodology is the waterfall model, right? So they are going to follow some process, right? That process or that methodology. Okay, there are different types of methodologies that are available. The first one is the waterfall model, right? Iterative model, spiral model, V model, agile model, Big Bang model. Like the different model or different methodologies are available in the market, right? So the first methodology and the important methodology that we need to remember is the waterfall model, right? And after that, we need to understand what is V model. And then currently we are working on the agile model, right? So currently each and every company is following this agile model. This is the important one. We need to understand this. What exactly is the agile model and everything, right? But remaining things like you can learn on your own, right? Much data is available over the net, right? You can learn on all these things. This is not at all required, but you need to understand what exactly the agile model is. But in order to understand this agile model, you need to know waterfall model as well as the V model. So in order to overcome the disadvantages of each and every model, okay, we are going with this agile model. So that we'll see right now, right? So first of all, what is waterfall model? So waterfall model, it's simply like water is falling from the mountain, right? How water is falling from the mountain. In the same way, all the SDLC stages are arranged here, right? If you see requirement analysis, design, coding, testing, acceptance, these are all the SDLC stages only, right? So these stages are arranged in this manner, right? How the water is falling from the mountain, right? So what happens here? So initially, if the requirement phase is started, then no work is going to be done in any other phase until the requirement phase is going to be completed, right? Once the requirement phase is done, okay, then only they'll do the analysis phase, right? So once the requirement phase is completed, then they are going to log the requirements and they're never going to change these requirements, right? And they'll start doing the analysis. Once the analysis phase is done, they are going to log it and they'll start developing. Designing. Once the design phase is done, they are going to log this and they're going to start developing here, right? So once the development is done, they are going to log this and the testing is going to go over here, right? And finally, right, once the testing is done, it is going to show in front of the client, right? So we are going to show the developed application in front of the client, right? At that time, if client is not satisfied, right, what will happen? Whatever the time that we have spent over here and whatever the resources, whatever the amount or the budget that we have spent over this entire duration is going to be wasted, right? So one advantage is it is simple to use, but many disadvantages are there, right? Out of all the disadvantages, two major disadvantages is first disadvantage is testing team, right? So testing team utilization is not in a proper way. Okay. So when the testing team is going to be start its testing process, once after completing all these stages, then only the testing team is going to start their testing part, right? So let us assume like the project timeline is 6 months. Okay. So in order to get the requirements and till development part, let us assume it took 5 months, right? So what is the major issue that the testing team is going to face here is within 1 month, they need to test the entire application and they need to get the approval from the client, right? So this is a hectic thing, right? So testing team, they need to start their work and they need to complete their work within a stipulated time period. That is very, very less time period, right? So testing team involvement is very lately happening here, right? So that is one major issue, right? And coming to the second thing, right? So second thing here, what is the second issue that you may see? What is the second issue? Any guess? Any guess, guys? What is going to be the second issue from this waterfall model? Second issue is client, right? So when we are going to show the product to the client at the end of the stage, right? If any changes are required, right? Then those changes we are not going to show the client in the initial part itself, in the initial stage itself, right? We are going to show the application at the end, right? So client involvement, okay, client involvement is there in the starting part as well as in the ending part, whereas that is not feasible, right? Client involvement is also not there. These are the two major issues, okay, that we are having. Apart from that, we are having many other issues also, but for now we'll think of these two things, right? One is the testing team involvement, okay, and second one is the client involvement, right? So apart from those two, these are all the other limitations that we have, right? You can go through it. Okay, I'm just holding it for some time, right? So high amounts of risk are there, right? And this is the not good model for the complex projects, right? And this is not suitable for the projects where the requirements are keep on changing, right? And no working software is provided until the last stage, right? Last stage. That is one more major drawback. And once the application is in the testing phase, it is very difficult to go back and do the changes in the development part, right? So these are all the other limitations. But our major concentration is client involvement as well as the testing team involvement. These two are the major issues for us, right? In order to overcome all these issues, right, we are going for one more model called V model, right? So what this V model will do is, in the V model process, right, this business analyst, once after gathering the requirements, right, this business analyst, what he will do is, once after gathering the requirements, he is going to give that BRS document to the development team as well as the testing team parallelly, right? So here we are going to see two different life cycles. Okay, whatever that is there on the left side of this V part is going to be the developer's life cycle, and on the right hand side, this is going to be called as tester's life cycle, right? So one is the verification phase, and the second one is the validation phase. So that is the reason why we are going to call this model as V model, right? So once the business analyst gather the requirements, right? So that document he is going to provide to developers as well as the testers, right? So what the developer will do is he is going to like developer's life cycle. What the project manager will do is he's going to develop this SRS document and HLD, LLD documents, and they start coding over here, right? Parallelly to this, right? Testing team also they are going to start developing the test cases, right? And testing related environment related things, right? So different types of documents they are also going to prepare here parallelly along with the development team, right? So one advantage that we have here is testing team involvement is there from the starting itself, right? So from the starting of the project itself, testing team involvement is there, right? Once the application got developed, right, by the developers, by this time, testing team knows that what are all the things that they need to test, right? In the previous case, what happens? Until the application got developed, they don't know anything. They don't have any documents in their hand, right? But here, as this BRS document is given already to the testing team also, and they are parallelly working on this, they have the entire details of what they need to test and what are the different types of tests that they need to perform, right? So this testing process will go very smoothly over here because of that, right? So out of the two major disadvantages, one disadvantage we can overcome here. That is the testing team involvement disadvantage. Okay, whereas here the client involvement is again in the starting stage as well as in the ending stage, right? That client involvement disadvantage we can't overcome over here, right? So in order to overcome that particular requirement, right, that particular disadvantage, what we can do is we can go for another model, that is the agile model. right? Or we can call it as the agile methodology, right? So in this agile methodology, what we are going to do is we are going to break the project into different iterations, right? This entire project is going to be divided into different iterations, okay? Or we can call it as sprints, okay? In agile terminology, we are going to call it as sprint, okay? In the form of different sprints, we are going to break the project, right? Let us say we have 10 functionalities to develop, okay? So what we are going to do is all these 10 functionalities, we are going to break it into different sprints, okay? That means, let us say I'm going to have some 4 sprints, right? In the first sprint, 3 functionalities. This is sprint 1, right? In the sprint 1, 3 functionalities need to develop. In the sprint 2 also, 3 functionalities need to develop. In sprint 3, 2 functionalities. And in the sprint 4, right? 2 functionalities. Now, the entire 10 functionalities, whatever that we need to develop, we are going to divide it into different sprints. In each and every sprint, okay, we are going to assign like few functionalities that need to be developed, right? And each sprint is of duration 2 to 8 weeks. Generally, most of the companies, they will go with 2 weeks a sprint, okay? So that means 14 days, right? So 2 weeks is the sprint duration, okay? So that means within 14 days, we need to complete these 3 functionalities, right? We need to develop, okay? See, we need to understand the requirement, we need to do the design, we need to develop, and then we need to do the testing, right? And then we need to show that output to the client, right? After each and every sprint, right, we are going to have one meeting with the client. In that meeting, we need to show the output of all these 3 functionalities to the client, right? If client is, let us assume we are showing 3 functionalities to the client, right? If client is satisfied with 2 functionalities out of 3, right? But one functionality, he said some changes to that single functionality, one functionality, right? Out of these 3. Now, what we will do is we are going to move this functionality to the next sprint, right? That means instead of 3 here in the second sprint, we need to work on 4 functionalities, right? And major thing that we need to remember here is we need to concentrate more on the functionality which is moved from sprint 1 to sprint 2, right? First, we need to complete this backlog, okay? And then we need to go ahead with the remaining 3 functionalities which are important on that particular sprint, right? So let us assume after sprint 2 also, we are going to have one meeting with the client, right? So in that meeting, we are showing now 4 functionalities to the client. If client got satisfied with all the 4 functionalities, then we'll go to the next sprint. In the next sprint, 2 functionalities we are going to develop, right? This process will go on, right? So the major advantage here is the testing team involvement is there in each and every phase, and as well as client involvement is also there in each and every sprint, right? So after each and every sprint, client involvement is there. So at the end of the sprint or iteration, a working product should be delivered. Okay, we need to show some working output to the client, right? So this is the agile methodology process. Nowadays, each and every company is going to following this process itself, right? So whenever if you are entering into any software company, you need to know this process. This is very, very important. Hope this is clear. What is agile methodology and how the process is going to happen in the agile methodology? Any doubts? Guys, 2 things. If you are not asking any questions, either it should be completely perfect or you are not even understanding anything. So in which stage you are right now? Is it clear completely or completely not clear? To make this as interactive one, please. Harish and Anusha.
Yeah, it's clear, bro.
So this is all about the agile methodology. The same thing like is available in the form of a diagram here, right? So the developer like he's going to develop the functionality one, and then the testing should be done. Functionality two, the testing should be done, and how many functionalities that they need to develop, they'll develop each and everything, and then they're going for the demo release, right? And they'll take in the demo release, client will be there, right? Like client is going to, we are going to show that release to the client, and based on the client feedback, right, we are going to do some changes again. The functionalities that we need to complete in the next sprint, we are going to take that, and we are going to start working on the next sprint, right? So this is the agile process, agile methodology process, right? So let's stop it here for today, right? So any doubts, please feel free to ask, or else like we'll stop it here for today, and we'll go ahead with the remaining steps in the next stage, next class, like tomorrow's class. Tomorrow we are going to understand like what is software testing life cycle. Okay, till now we discussed about software development life cycle, right? So in tomorrow's session, we'll see what is software testing life cycle, and what are the different types of functional tests that are going to happen. What are the different types of non-functional tests that are available, right? So those details we'll see in tomorrow's session. So any doubts, please feel free to ask. Okay. Hope doubts are not there. So if doubts are not there, like we'll close the session here for today. Thanks for attending this session.